That's the plan.
It's smoke and mirrors.
Right.
Yeah.
Deneen, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see in a bit. All right. Well, let's now bring in Democratic Congressman from Illinois and member of the House Committee on Foreign Affairs, Jonathan Jackson. Congressman, we appreciate your joining us here on American Agenda. Out of the gate, what was your reaction watching the debate last night?
If we were watching the same debate of Vice President Harris and former President Donald Trump, clearly Vice President Kamala Harris won the debate. She was focused, she was concise, she made the argument clear. Her focus was on the American people, on the middle class, offering specific solutions on ways that we can increase home ownership, on ways we can increase business participation. And once again, we heard the same old tired trope of President Trump talking about himself. 2020 has already been settled, it's been resolved. In case he doesn't know, President Biden has been in terms for 3.5 years now, and the nation has moved forward. I think it's very curious that there were 435 federal elections amongst persons that were in the Congress. There were 33 persons that were in the Senate, and there were 2 that were on the top of the ticket for the president and vice president. The only question he has is about what was happening at the top of the ticket. Clearly, a senator should have had some objections if there was any credibility. Clearly, a congressperson would have had some questions if there was any questions about 2020. And the courts would have sided with him on something. So that's an old conversation. This young generation, this next generation, the current generation, wants to find a way to move forward. They want to know what's in it for them. And so I think we should focus on the people and not just on the person, and that of Donald J. Trump, and talk about which candidate is talking about what's inclusive for the American people going forward.
You could make the same argument that President Trump did make a case to go forward. The Harris, you know, depending on what you think about, maybe just as well. I thought President Trump, Congressman, at the end of the debate, his closing argument, here's what he said. I want to bring it up.
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in.
I also want to add inflation, the wars around the world, the border, largely not issues during President Trump's term in office. Didn't happen until the Biden-Harris administration. Congressman, your thoughts about that?
Well, if you talk about the border, I think we need to look at our foreign policy not through simply a keyhole, but through a door. We have to look at the Americas and our region. For example, as President Trump had left office, he tightened sanctions upon, if you will, further embargo and restrictions, calling Cuba a terrorist state. What did that do? The consequence of that was 500,000 people having to leave the island nation because they can find it no longer sustainable to live at home. We've seen an earthquake in Haiti, we've seen a coup, and we've not modernized our relationship to have a peaceful, if you will, a more reciprocal trade policy with Haiti to have greater investments. If you look at what's happened in Venezuela, as they've increased sanctions and not normalized trade and relations in our region, we've had 4 to 5 million people to have to leave the country of Venezuela. There's a one contiguous landmass from Caracas, Venezuela, all the way through Chicago, Illinois. So people are coming up the Pan American Highway. So let's talk about reforming and having economic plans for normalizing relationships with countries in our region. Let's increase prosperity so that people want to stay at home, where people aren't having American sanctions, where you cannot do any trade with Cuba, cannot do any with Venezuela, cannot normalize and help the people of Haiti. And people are fleeing. People aren't coming here with babies on their hips and children because they didn't want to stay at home. They could not stay at home, so therefore they have to survive. Let's normalize trade relationships. Let's talk about a new century for the Americas. Let's talk about a plan for 2050, 25 years from now. What should this region look like? That's where I would hope that the conversation would go. That's what I would hope I could hear from President Trump, former President Trump. But in the meantime, he has a lot of legal issues that are his personal problems that he needs to deal with. Let's put the American people first and not go back to this era of chaotic despotism He's trying
Yeah,
to quote
yeah.
a strong man from Hungary. Everything about that is just wrong, and you know it's wrong.
Well, I think when it comes to many of his legal cases, Congressman, they've been settled, and he has won most of those cases, and a lot of them aren't even going to be touched.
Are you
till
talking about
after
the case with
election.
Jean Carroll?
You settled. He has
many that are his personal.
yes.
That's gone. That's
Which
over.
he's also got that in appeals just as
Right.
well. So that case isn't over either. Congressman Jackson from Illinois, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, and coming up as we continue to commemorate 23 years since September 11th, those horrible terrorist attacks throughout our country, we're going to talk to some first responders about